Hi, you guys, and welcome back. I wanted to go over some of the stuff that I know that people, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. And there's a lot of people that are very worried about the tariffs and how they're going to affect Volkswagen parts and classic car parts. And it might not be nearly as bad as you think. They and please hear me out before you just go, oh, no, you're wrong. Okay, because I've got some good things to say. And I think that this won't put some light on some of this stuff. So let's talk about it. Okay, so far they put tariffs on Canada and Mexico. We used to get a lot of parts from Mexico. Now, very few parts come from Mexico, so that might not be an issue. There are some that I'm not really aware of, but most of our parts come from Brazil, China, and some are made here in the U.S., which won't be a problem, and a lot of them come from Taiwan. And so far, they're not talking about a blanket tariff on Taiwan. They've only talked about doing one on conductors that I'm aware of. I've been kind of watching this stuff. China has got a 10% tariff, but the 10% tariff is on the wholesale price. So let's say retail is $100. The wholesale for that might be 50 or even less. So the total price of the product is probably not going to go up 10%. It might go up 2 or 3. So it might not be as bad as you think as far as things go. But yeah, we are probably going to have some price increases on some things. Products from AA Performance will probably go up. But I'll probably get a notice here pretty soon when they do the reorder. Okay, and of course these tariffs can also change, and it all depends on the behavior of the other country. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later in the video about this, what I think's going on in the government, and you can listen to it or not listen to it. It's up to you. But it could change depending on the reactions of the other countries. Like I've heard Canada's thinking about putting a tariff on us. I don't know if that's a great idea, but anyway, again, we'll get back into that later in the video. But the products that we get from Taiwan, which is mostly what Wolfsburg West sells, are probably not going to be affected because they have, they don't have a blanket tariff that I'm aware of yet. The other thing that we're looking at is, and a lot of the higher quality parts do come from Taiwan. The cheaper junk comes from China. And so that's going to be your AMPI parts and things like that are probably going to be affected. And again, it's only 10%, okay, on the wholesale price. So it's not on the retail, okay? It's 10% on the wholesale. So it might not be as much as you think as far as that goes. In fact, last time they did this, it didn't change the parts that much. Some things did go up quite a bit, more than others, and it just depends on what it is. Like, things like if the steel is made over there, I don't know. Some of those things are going to go up in price. At the same time, a lot of people in the Volkswagen world want better quality stuff. And if stuff is manufactured here in the United States, according to what I've heard so far, that he's going to lower corporate tax for things that are made here. So let's say that there's people outsourcing things to China right now, and you decide, hey, wait a minute, or some other country, maybe in Europe. I don't know what the European ones are yet. They haven't said. But let's say that they go, hey, listen, we can transfer. That's why all the scanning and CNC and a lot of this stuff is so good for us, is they could transfer those files over to places that are local in the United States, and possibly we could get better quality parts. So there is a possible upside in the future on this. Now, it's not going to say that there's not going to be a rough spot here, but I think if we just remain positive, okay, instead of just falling in the deep end of the negative, I think we're going to find out that it's not going to be as bad as maybe we think. Now, in Canada, there's definitely some issues, guys. SIP 1 it's scary. Okay, and I get that. So we'll talk about that again a little bit later in the video. So a lot of us are wanting better quality parts, and this could be a good road for that. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But in the same exchange, we could see some lumps along the way. So again, the stuff made in China is going to have a wholesale increase again of 10% right now. And the stuff made in Taiwan, again, there's no tariff yet. Now, is there some other countries, I don't know. It could be a trade war. I don't know what's going to happen. We just have to wait and see. We don't know. And again, like I said, remain positive, because a lot of these things are probably not going to affect the parts as much as you might think. Because if it's only on the wholesale side, the retail, it's going to be affected by that margin, whatever it is. So anyway, stuff from Brazil. Currently, there's no tariff, although I don't like hearing from the Brazilian whatever president or whatever he is. I don't know, prime minister. I don't know how they deal with that government over there, saying that he better not do that to us, because I think that's just a bad idea. I just don't say anything. If I were Brazil, I would just not talk right now. Just don't say anything, and just wait. Don't threaten anything like that, because that's probably not a good idea. I'll talk about that again later in the video. But I'm hoping that it remains no tariffs from Brazil, because that's where we get most of our stuff comes from. Mahle bearings are made in Brazil. Well, I don't know, they bounce through the Brazil. I don't know if they're actually made there now. They might be made in China and then go through Brazil, then come here. I don't really understand that, and I don't know exactly how that's going to affect everything. And it could go up in price, like on the wholesale side. Yes, it will if it goes through China. And then some of them might be Taiwan, or they might move their factories to Taiwan. A lot of different things might be happening over the next 6 months. Just keep your eye out for that. Keep an eye on where it comes from, and remember, it's on the wholesale side, not on the retail, unless you're buying directly from China. Sometimes I get these pointless setups from, I could call them Sherry Berg. They're really good quality. Sherry Berg, okay? This on AliExpress, they have Sherry Berg parts, and some of those stuff is not bad. And I've ordered stuff directly from there, and yeah, it'll get hit when I order directly from there on the retail side, because I'm ordering it directly. But again, on the wholesale side, it might not be that big of a deal. And yeah, there's going to be some lumps. So I just want to be that it's not going to be like perfectly smooth and everything's going to be great and roses at the end of the cherry, whatever. It's not going to be quite that way. But I think if we wait and be patient, we're probably going to see some positive things possibly in the next few years, as maybe possibly we'll get more stuff that's made here, and maybe we can be in better quality. And like I said, what's going in line with that is they're lowering corporate tax, which will be good for businesses. And if they lower the corporate tax even more on something that's manufactured here, then it might motivate some of these companies to do what a lot of us have wanted, which is make stuff here and make it better quality and get a better quality part to us, so we can make our cars work better. So anyway, so I'm going to tell you about something now, and we're going to kind of move into a different part of this, and I'm going to tell you something what I'm seeing, and you can agree with it, you can disagree with it. There's a comment section. It's all my opinion. And what I'm seeing is this reminds me of when I was in 5th grade. I had this teacher, and his name was Mr. Kepler. And if you got in Mr. Kepler's class, usually you would know in advance, that this was how things went there. And he taught school, and he was a good teacher, and you learned when you were in his class, because there was no distractions. There was no distractions in his class. So what he had is on the side of his desk, and a lot of you younger folks are going to go, oh my God, that's terrible. He had a paddle with holes in it. Remember those guys? You guys are my age? The paddle with holes in it was hanging on the side of his desk. And within the first day of class, okay, almost always, there was one person that got that paddle. One person. And usually he didn't have to use it the whole semester or the whole year after that. But he would sit down and class would get disrupted. They would come from one. It was like getting, when you get one teacher, the class goes crazy and everybody does whatever they want to do. And it's kind of a free for all. And maybe that's how our government's been the last few years or whatever. And we felt like, oh, we can do whatever we want, and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden you got Mr. Kepler class. Okay. So Mr. Kepler comes in and his class starts getting disrupted from people in the class. And all it took was one person to get that paddle. One person. And they would be sitting there leaning over the desk and they would get, 3 swats with that thing. And I forget the whole process. But it was memorable. Okay. I'm 60 years old. This was when I was 5th grade. Okay. I still remember it. So one person got swats. All right. And guess what happened? No more noise in the class. Everybody got in line. They got things in order. And things just went together. I think of Trump, not saying that I completely agree with his management style, okay, but I think of him as Mr. Kepler. He's just laying down the law. He's setting the bar, okay, and he's like, it's going this way, okay? If you don't get in line, and so you look what happens when you have discipline. You have things like, oh, we're not fighting anymore over here. No, that's not happening. All of a sudden, the border people, no longer, we're not running across there anymore. Stopped. Okay, because either you do what he says or there's a penalty to pay. And so I feel like that's kind of what's happening. And it was effective in school. I mean, this teacher had no problems. And back then, that punishment was okay. Now, no way. And now you see kids getting away with all kinds of crap. They're going to school and they're, acting up and all this other stuff. Then when I was a kid, that did not happen. There was different teachers who had different ways to do it. Okay. And they used their, they used a paddle. I can guarantee you that didn't hurt anyone that much. But man, and even the person who got it, okay, the next day, that's gone. But the mental anguish of standing in front of the class and crying because you got the paddle, okay, just shut all that stuff down. So, Canada, what's going on? Okay, and listen, if you're SIP 1, if you work there, I really feel for you guys. I know it's going to be super tough and it's not your fault. Okay. You guys have nothing to do with any of this. All right. But I do know a lot about Canadian law and Canadian, or, not the law, but from traveling back and forth. I've gone to Canada. I've probably spent 2 years out of the last 25, okay, in Canada, going there periodically. So going there for like 10 days at a time, coming back to the United States, going back 10 or 12, 10 months or for a whole month, coming back to the United States. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So I've seen how Canadian markets work. I've watched Walmart go into Canada and do well. I've watched Target go into Canada and fail. Okay. And I'm going to kind of explain to you guys maybe something that's going on behind the scenes that, that maybe some of the people even that live in Canada are not aware of, because you don't go to the United States as much as I have back and forth. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I've observed from going to businesses. And I haven't gone through the hundreds and hundreds of pages of garbage that they have in their laws to actually do business in Canada, because it's absolutely, you have to have before you start a business in Canada, you have to go to a lawyer and just go through a whole, you have to hire a lawyer to go through all the hoops, because I have so many of them. But this is kind of how it works. And this may not be exactly accurate, but kind of how it works. Okay, so Walmart goes to Canada. All right, and maybe this will help you understand maybe why they're putting a tariff on Canada, right? And so Walmart goes to Canada, and they do well. Okay, Target goes to Canada. Within, I think, a year, they fail. Okay, and you'd think Target lines up more with Canada with their political views, right? I mean, we all know that. All right, so Walmart goes to Canada, and they go there and they start their business. And I think what it is they just had a lot of capital, and they said, okay, because they have these laws, okay, and I don't know exactly how they work, but they have these things like Canadian First law, okay, so it messes up trade with America, all right, and I think that the government knows about this, all right, so they have these things where, you know, if they have a Canadian product, you're supposed to market that and put it on the shelf first, and then, but if they don't have one, so like Best Buy went to Canada, cleaned house. I mean, they just blew out Super Shop, or what was it called? Future Shop. You guys are in Canada are going to know that I know a little bit about this. Okay, Future Shop was gone. I think it took 3 weeks for the company to be gone. Okay, because Best Buy went in there and nothing in their inventory that they make in Canada. So like all the TVs and all that stuff, they don't have Canadian made TVs. Everything's made in China or Malaysia or Taiwan or whatever. None of it's made in Canada. So they could just buy from their normal sources. All right. Best Buy could. And Best Buy, just the Future Shop was just marking everything up to the moon. So like when I was younger, I used to go to Canada. All right. And I would look on the shelf and I would go, how come a TV here is, you know, $1,000? They're $200 for the same one in the United States. That's ridiculous. Okay, and it's because, you know, the way that they have their laws set up. All right, so things like the best way to understand this, okay, is drywall mud. I went to Home Depot years ago. But I'm just going to use generic pricing to you guys can understand. I went to Home Depot and I went to go buy some hot mud, and it was $10 a bag. I'm just going to say $10 a bag in the United States. Okay. And I went to Home Depot in Canada to buy the same, you know, whatever 20-minute mud, and it was $25 a bag. All right. And the difference is the bag of drywall mud in the US was made in the US, and the one in Canada was made in Canada. So because it was a Canadian First, they had to try and carry that product there, and so the you know, so Canadians were just getting totally ripped off and not knowing it, buying this expensive product. And so the owner, I'm sure, of that company that was selling drywall mud, and I'm just kind of using this as an example because everybody understands this, is the owner of that company selling the drywall mud in Canada was just getting filthy rich, okay? Making tons and tons of money. And I'm sure he was sending campaign money in to the government to get, you know, keep that law there, because, man, you know, that's making me rich. And he was doing it on the hands of the Canadian people. I don't know why people don't get mad about this over there. They just go, oh, well, it's, you know, buy in Canada first or whatever. But I think that they were, you know, that they've been getting ripped off. Okay. Well, Walmart comes in, and, you know, when the Walmart first got there, and I watched all this happen. Okay. Walmart comes in, and you see their shelves, hardly anything's on it. And you're like, oh, wow, what's going on here? Well, they would just tell the Canadian people, you know, that we're making stuff. They'd be like, no, we're not carrying it. Here's our price point. We need you to be right here. Oh, wow, really? Because in the U.S., their margin is thin, okay? And they're like, no, in order to carry it on the shelf here, you're going to have to meet this price. Well, little by little, the company started getting in line and got on the shelves at the price. But it took a lot of capital from Walmart to stand up to them and say, no, this is what we're doing. And now Walmart's a huge success in Canada, which I don't know how that's going to work out with this tariff. You know, it's going to be kind of interesting to watch. I'm glad I don't live there. Okay, and I feel bad for the people that do. Okay, but I think what's going to happen, I don't know what's going to happen in the future with that. Okay, I don't know, but they do have a new government coming in, and possibly there's something going on between Mr. Trump and over there, and they're probably talking in the back room. And I'm just saying this because I don't know, but maybe they're talking back room about this stuff because of those laws. It's not a tariff on the United States, okay, but it is limiting them doing business with us and buying product, and it's actually hurting the Canadian people. And the Canadians don't even know it because they don't come back and forth to America. They don't see it all the time like I was all the time and seeing it all the time because my wife's Canadian. So I've been back and forth many, many times, and I don't like to see bad things happen to Canada. So I'm not trying to, rationalize any of this stuff. I don't know if it's the best method of doing things, but it's just what's going on. Okay. So what I think's happening probably in the back room is he's going, that law over there, that whole crap load of regulations you guys have, that needs to go away. And then possibly we can do over the table business because there's not a tariff on American products, but they're not buying our products, because of, and their side of the story is that Canada's side of the story is, well, we need our Canadian workers and our Canadian manufacturing to do well. Well, what are we saying right now? Same thing, okay? We don't have anything getting manufactured in the United States. It's not enough. A lot of stuff's getting done overseas. And so you got them saying that's going to support them, but meanwhile, what's happening that they don't know about is these owners of these companies, the Canadian-made stuff, are just getting so rich. It's like a huge, and like I said, I don't know why they're not getting angry about it. Maybe they just don't know. I think that's really the case. They just don't know. So anyway, why did Target not make it? They did not know how to negotiate this stuff like Walmart did. So Target went into Canada, bought up a company called Zellers. Zellers was a company in Canada that was kind of like, I'm going to say like Kmart, but they sold all Canadian goods. And man, did they have the worst garbage in that store. I used to go in there and I was like, what the hell is this crap? And they go, but it's Canadian made. We should buy it here. I'm like, yeah, but this stuff is garbage. It was worse than China, some of this stuff. It was really bad. And, like they had these blue jeans and they were like this weird color blue, man. I was like, there's no way I'm wearing those. Okay. And they had them all and they were, fairly inexpensive or whatever. And it was kind of reminded me of Kmart. It was kind of like that. So Target goes in, buys out Zellers, not knowing that there's all this Canadian content and Canadian first type law. Okay. And buys up Zellers thinking, man, we're just going to go in and we're just going to do like Best Buy did and just blow it out. Within 3 weeks of Best Buy being there, by the way, Future Shop was up for sale and they bought them because they just were losing so much money. They lost all their customers just immediately, just overnight. And so Canadians get upset about this stuff, but it's business, you guys. You got to compete globally right now. You can't just think that our country is, doesn't need to compete. You have to compete. You have to be good. You have to be, able to sell product other than to your own people. And then having this one guy get super rich, it's not right. It's just not the right way to do things. So anyway, that's my opinion. So Target goes in and buys out Zellers. And they try to use their normal sources. So they go, hey, we're going to through our warehouse. We're going to have these. No, you're not. These products you can't ship here because you have to go Canadian first. And if once they've exhausted the Canadian content, and again, the reason I know this is because I would just see things on the shelf. I'm like, what the hell is this garbage? And so, just learning it from looking at it. So they said, hey, you got to buy these products here. And they're like, oh, I can't use that. And instead of doing what Walmart did, which was, stalemate them and say, no, we're not going to carry these until we'll just have the empty shelf. We'll just have an empty shelf. We don't care. We'll wait till you meet our pricing. Instead of doing that, they tried to sell the same stuff, so they became a new Zellers, and it just didn't work. So anyway, the Zellers just took over, and it was red, and it just had the California, had the United States look, but the products in the shelves were not competitive. They were garbage, and that's why they failed. That's what my opinion is. Everything, again, in this portion of the video is my opinion, and based on what I've observed when I was there. Again, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but anyway, I think that's really kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And I do really feel for companies like SIP1 who are just trying to survive, and I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm afraid we're going to lose them, and I don't think it's really good for the Volkswagen community. I know a lot of you guys buy stuff from SIP1 all over the United States because of the shipping and the tax. It's a good deal. I bought stuff from them myself, and I really do feel for them. I'm hoping that this new prime minister who comes in knows about this type of thing that I'm talking about right now and uses it as a negotiating tool. So like, if you're talking to a business guy and you say, hey, here's what I've got, here's what I can bring to the table. I can do this and it'll help us buy more from your country. All right. We'll deregulate all this garbage that we've had that's suppressing our people. Okay. Not knowing that if you're Canadian, that this is really happening. We're going to get rid of this garbage that's suppressing our people. And then what we're going to do is we're going to offer this to you we're going to go ahead and do this, and please remove the tariff because this will help both of our countries. And I think as a business person, they're going to see, okay, this is a fair deal. Okay, this will bring business to us, but at the same time, we don't need to have that tariff money because now we're going to get it in other ways from our normal businesses making more money and selling more stuff. I have a feeling that something like that's going to happen because I think the new prime minister, I haven't been following Canadian politics very much because, again, I haven't been traveling there the last 7 years, nothing, because of the COVID and everything else and economic slowdowns here. I just haven't been able to do it. So I think the new guy, from what I've just looked into shortly, I think he's a conservative. Because typically he's a French guy, I believe. And I haven't, like I said, I just kind of barely looked into this. And the Frenchies are usually conservatives. So if that happens, just keep an eye on it. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, if he negotiates that right way, I think that'll go away. And he's coming in office, or I don't know if the election's coming. I don't know what's happening, but I just kind of grazed into it for a second, and because I've heard people say something about the French guy, and if that happens and Justin Trudeau gets out of there, which would probably be a better thing for their country. That guy's Justin. That guy's nah. I think a lot of Canadians are done with him. So some of them aren't. Some like him, but whatever. But anyway, I think that's what needs to happen over there, and hopefully it happens soon, because I don't want to lose SIP1. I think they're a great company. They're trying to do a good thing, and they do have access to the EU stuff at a better price than we do, and it'll help the Volkswagen community. But anyway, I decided to make a video on this. I hope it doesn't seem too political to you guys. I'm not trying to be political. I'm just talking about VWs and business and how this could affect us, and hopefully you guys understand that. And I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.